So to edit our tab navigation bar, let's go back to our editor, and we're going to give it some basic classes, some basic Bootstrap classes to make sure that it is displayed in the correct navbar form. So we're going to first give the surrounding div, this one right here, a class of navbar, and we're going to use the navbar default, and on the UL list we give a class of navbar nav, and on the list item we give a class of navlink. So let's go back to our page and refresh, and we have our tabs. Looks beautiful. Now we want to make sure that tab 1 begins as selected, so is active. So basically, if we give the class a class of active, and refresh the page, it makes all of them active. And we want just the tab 1 to start as active when we first start the page. So what we want to do is we want to say class active. So vbind class active is true if, let's say, a property of the menu item here is active. So what this is saying is we're going to create, or actually it has to be menu item is active. So check if menu item is active is true or false, and if it's true, give this tag a class of active. That's basically what this is saying. It's an if-else statement for class creation. So to do that, we have to actually define is active. So let's go down to our tab, and here we're going to give a data. And the reason why we're not doing it in props is because props are basically immutable and they cannot be changed, and data can be changed. Data is mutable. So you want to be able to change this data from active to is not active state depending on when you clicked the button. So let's go return is active, and let's put it to false as default. However, we want to pass on a property called selected, and for tab 1 we want it to be true. So in the properties, which cannot be changed, selected is going to be by default false, but when it's passed on it's going to be true. And basically what I want to happen is when the data is mounted, so when both the property and the data are ready, I want to go mounted. When it's mounted, I want to say this is active is equal to this selected. So now let's go back to our page, refresh, and we have our tab 1 selected. So that was a little complicated, but if you look at the code, it's basically saying we have two properties selected. One is passed down from properties from the tabs menu. It's called selected, and it's all defined as false except for the one that's defined as true. For data, we want it all to be false in the beginning, but once the instances and the HTML is rendered and mounted, we want to say this active or this property to be based on what's been selected as true, or what the selected property passed on is. So for the tab 1 that's passed on as true, selected, the is active is true, and for all the other ones where no selected value has been given, it's going to default to false, and because it's going to be false, this active for that item is going, for that tab, for that particular for each tab, is going to be false. And that is going to determine the is active state here. So for each, we have a for each, remember? So for each menu item, where menu item is active and only tab 1 is active in the beginning, it's going to give a value of true for here for menu item dot is active, and that's going to provide the class vbinded of active, and that's therefore going to give this tab an active state. So that's how that code works. I hope that made sense. And then I will, if not, you can just rewind the tutorial, rewind this lecture, and then re-listen to what I explained. And I will move on to the next lecture to show you how to click on the different tabs to show you how it can change which tab is being selected.